Hi, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new album from Moon Duo titled Stars Are the Light. Enjoy. The album kicks off with Flying, which is like a very beachy track. It has some very smooth chords and very light electronics, and it blends themselves into a very mellifluous experience. I think the sound palette here is very realized, as there's constantly more layers of effects added into the mix to give it a very psychedelic feel. And I think the vocals, whether or not stand out, I think they do a very good job to kind of ease you into the atmosphere of the track. Overall, I think it's a great opener. This is a pretty good follow-up track. It opens up with some pretty sharp acoustics, some bouncy electronics, and some soft choral vocals in the background. Gives us like a very heavenly composition of cosmic psychedelia that I just love. I love listening to this track. The vocals again just fit very well. And even though there's no dynamic progression of the track, I feel like the melody and the groove is so good it can't be denied. It's just it can be forgiven. This track starts off with a cooling drum pattern accompanied by some bass tones. I think some deep chords and electronics make their way into the mix. And there's more dreamy, ethereal vocals kind of thrown in there to kind of help describe a place of some sort. And the composition of sounds lead to a very good finish, but it doesn't grab me for the entirety of the track. I feel like it drags on a bit too long, even though it's only like around 4 minutes. Eh, This track features some very slinging bass, these very echoey crackle drums, and some synthesizers thrown in there for a good measure. I think the vocal performance here acts more as an instrument than it does like a way to convey a message or lyrics of any kind. And once again, the groove and the melody is super hypnotic, and it keeps me interested for the entirety of the track. It's another one of my favorites on here. Lost Heads. It starts off with some like magic wand kind chimes and these very de-escalating electronics. I don't have much to say about this. It's just another solid track on the album for me. Eternal Shore has some more bass tones and a chord melody to help carry it, but I feel like the lack of instrumental or vocal progression on this track hurts it the most because it feels very void of value when compared to the other tracks on the album. Like it still sounds good, but it gets stale for me after halfway through the track. Eye to Eye starts with these buzzing guitars that gets its sound fleshed out with some watery keyboards, more ethereal vocals, and more instrumental layering like I'm drifting in a desert, like a blue or red desert. And I do like it, or I liked it at first when I first heard the album, but rehearing it, it really starts to meander towards the end of the song, and the lack of meaningful progression just stalls it for me. Fever Night includes these soft acoustics and more fully realized electronics, more trippy chords and layers make their way into the mix to help flesh out the sound. The vocals here are actually very, very soothing. It has a very solid sound and groove to it, and it serves as a very good closer as the outro, as it makes me feel like I'm going into space based off a drug I took or something. It's a good closer. Overall, I think this is a very colorful psych album. Most of the sound and grooves here are pretty enchanting and will probably stick in your head when you listen to them, and I feel like the sound palette here is used in very dynamic ways to help paint new sorts of vistas for each track. The big drawback on the entirety of the album, however, for me is the lack of meaningful progression across the entire album. Because when the sounds and the grooves hit, it is blissful. It sounds so good, and it can be forgiven because I'm so enthralled with those elements. But when the groups don't hit, the flaws of the album become a lot more apparent for me. Overall, I thought it was a very good listen. I would highly recommend if you like soothing, spacey, psychedelic cosmic rock. And overall, I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10.